As a disclaimer, I do not own the rights to this beautiful song by Sam Cooke, but I encourage everyone to check it out. All right, we're going to begin our event here tonight. Just admitting one more person into the waiting room. All right, sorry about this. All right, well, welcome. I see some familiar faces on the call tonight, some new faces. So glad for everyone to take some time out of their week, out of their evening to join in this community event. It's called An Evening for the River. Postcards, art, music, and storytelling. We have a wonderful lineup of guest presenters that have graced us with their presence tonight and their offerings. And I'll be the MC for the evening. Again, my name is Michael Anderson. And just give me a thumbs up if you're hearing me okay. Awesome, great. Thank you, appreciate it. So yeah, my name is Michael Anderson. I'm the Outreach and Engagement Manager with the Mississippi River Network. I oversee our One Mississippi program. And with the One Mississippi program, we build community. We've built a community of 20,000 river citizens, which are everyday people from armchairs to wading boots who take action for our country's most iconic waterway, the mighty Mississippi. So perhaps you found yourself here through our One Mississippi newsletter, or maybe on social media. If you don't currently follow us on social media, I encourage you to do that, where we share events and offerings like this. So a little bit of housekeeping for this evening. I'm going to go through our guest presenters right now. Before I do that, the general flow of this evening: come and go as you need to. All right, take care of yourselves. This is a marathon evening. We'll be writing postcards, as you probably saw in the follow-up email from earlier today. If you have those postcards, if they arrived in time, if they haven't, just take a little piece of notebook paper, write why you care about the river throughout this event, and we'll take care of the postcards later. In between that, we'll have about 15 to 20-minute sessions with our guest presenters. And I'll just introduce them briefly here and let them share more about themselves because they'll do a much better job. But we have John Ruskey with the Quapaw Canoe Company down in Clarksdale, Mississippi. Mark River Peoples, also with the Quapaw Canoe Company, and the creator of May the River Be With You podcast. He'll be on later sharing a little bit more about that. Alayna Chuney with the National Caucus of Environmental Legislators. Maisah, she's a policy manager at the Mississippi River Network. Let's see, who else? We have Joel Ford and Scott Miller, who will be paddling down the river in 2021, trying to break a Guinness speed record. We have Libby Reuter, who's a magnificent artist with Watershed, Cairns. She'll be sharing more about that later. And we have Kelly McGinnis, the executive director with the Mississippi River Network. So we'll bounce back and forth throughout the evening, from some live music to hearing from presenters to taking some time to just, be together in this collective space, taking action, writing those postcards. So a little bit more about the housekeeping. Please, throughout the evening in the chat, write your questions, type them up. I will be doing my best to just gather those questions throughout the evening and share, and we'll get them answered with our presenters or just throughout the evening. So again, if you haven't yet, please introduce yourself in the chat, share where you're coming from today, where you're joining, and we'll begin our evening with Mr. John Ruskey. And let's see, I'm gonna send it over to John. So one last thing about housekeeping, we're a large group. We decided to have this meeting be a meeting, an event, and not a webinar, because we wanted the opportunity for all of you to see one another, to know that you're not alone, right? We've been in this pandemic for a long time, and it's hard. It's really hard. And I think one of the greatest lessons that we learned from the river is that the river connects us all. All right, and especially the Mississippi as it drains, you know, from the Appalachian Mountains to the Rocky Mountains in the west. Up here, I'm in Minneapolis, so up here in the headwaters state, and all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. We're connected by the water. We're connected by the river. And so by joining on this call tonight, you know, we're standing up for the river. We're taking action together. And so I encourage you throughout the evening, keep your video on, smile at someone new. Maybe they'll smile back. I don't know how maybe that works through Zoom. We'll see what happens. And, you know, just be respectful. Keep on mute while others are presenting. And again, if you have questions, please drop them in the chat, and we'll proceed. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Uncle John here. John, I think you're on mute.
Can you hear me? Woo! Woo! Right on, nephew. Good job, brother. I'm here in the Catalpa House, which is across the street and across the river from the Quapaw Canoe Company in downtown Clarksville. And Mark River Peoples just walked in the door, and we're going to do this together. And River, I'm just going to play a couple, say hello to everybody.
Hey, hey, hey. Right on. Welcome, welcome.
We have a trip going out tomorrow, a week-long trip. Our last one of the year, probably. Although we might have a surprise around the corner. Michael just introduced everybody. All right. So this is the old river guitar that has swam in the Mississippi before, and sometimes she acts as a backup paddle. She's about the right shape, and you know, you drop the paddle in the water, which you're not supposed to do, but sometimes it happens. And she doesn't hold a tune very good, but we're gonna work with her. And this tune, this first tune that I'm gonna do for tonight, thank you, Michael and Kelly and Maisah and everyone at Mississippi for all you do. Making this happen. It's really cool seeing everybody up down the river. What a heartwarming view this is. Makes me feel good. It feels like I'm sitting in front of a fire on the edge of the river. I'm going to try and make this thing bigger and then play a song. Here we go. And the Mark River, as you know, hosts a podcast here. This is the old theme song from it. I thought it'd be appropriate for it. I learned this song from James' son Thomas, who was a Mississippi blues man from Leland, Mississippi. And it's based on an old blues tune called the Highway 61 Blues. But I changed up the words a little bit. It goes something like this. Well, you can love me or leave me any way you choose. Yes, you can love me or leave me but I'm gonna roll down that river in my old wooden canoe. Oh, Mississippi River, it's the longest road. Oh, Mississippi River, it's a long road. Rolls right down out of the great north woods, straight down to the Gulf of Mexico. That's okay. Oh, nothing lasts forever, not even you or I. Oh, nothing lasts forever, not even you or I. Well, old woman river heard the news, and old man sky, he began to cry. Cry, 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 cry.
Feel free to go off mute and just woo!
Look at that.
The kids over here, Virginia.
Who's that with?
That's Virginia.
Oh,
Yeah.
So that's in the old blues tradition, the Highway 61 blues. Bob Dylan did his own 61 tune. And I don't know, Michael, do you want another tune now? Or,
I apologize. I muted. Yeah, John, another one would be great. I accidentally muted you though, so please unmute yourself again. Yeah, you have to click the button. Sorry about that. All right, we're back, John. Thank you. Another ditty would be great. John, I muted you again, John. Come back. Awesome. Thank you. I will.
we, River and I, we can do this as a karaoke if you want. So Mark River, many of you all may not realize it, but Mark River is a songwriter too. And when he first came down out of the north, he was writing tunes and singing them also. I remember you used to do that around the campfire, brother.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to put you on the spot, but do you feel like joining me in this tune?
Let's go in the chorus.
Cool. Oh, it's sad, it's sad, it's so sad to see when a river is cut off from the Mississippi. The river's cut off from sunflower river's gasping for its breath. Sunflower river's gasping for its breath. Admiral Porter, he sailed his ships when the Mississippi Delta was water rich. Now steamboat whistles sounded weak. Ain't no water left in the Deer Creek. No water left in the Deer Creek. Well, fresh, clean water, it cleans our liver. No clean water left in Quiver River. Well, some like chicken, some like pork, but nobody drinks from the rolling fork. Nobody drinks from the rolling fork. A Teddy Roosevelt, he liked to swim, but the little sunflower ain't fit for getting in. Well, I like to swim wherever I go. Ain't no water left in the swimming hole. Ain't no water left in the swim hole. You get a line and I get a pole. Ain't no water in the crowded hole. Ain't no water, ain't no flow. Deadly water wherever I go. Deadly waters wherever I go. Well, it's sad, it's sad, it's so sad to when the river is cut off from the blue sea. The Colorado River never reaches a gulf. How much lower can humanity go? How much lower can humanity go? I hear you, brother. Sometimes it's flood, sometimes it's drought. You don't need no dam to figure it out. Sometimes it's flood, sometimes it's drought. Don't need your help to figure it out. If you cut the branch you're standing on, you'll fall to your death upon the ground. If you cut the river you're drinking from, you'll choke yourself and everyone. You'll choke yourself and everyone. Ain't no water, ain't no flow. I hope that history will never know. It's sad, it's sad, it's so sad to see when a river is cut off from the Mississippi. When the river's cut off from the Mississippi. Well, there ain't no water, ain't no flow, deadly waters wherever I go. Wherever I go, wherever I go, deadly waters wherever I go. Deadly waters wherever I go. All right, brother.
Right on.
We've never done that together before.
Right on, man. That was the first right there. Well, now you do the quarantine.
John and River, thank you both so much for kicking us our evening with those lovely songs. It is a true privilege and treat to hear your voices coming through in this platform online. It was Zoom like this. You know, we have almost 50 people on the call already. And, you know, people have been adding into the chat. Meg from Austin, you know, we have people just all over the watershed around the country joining in today. And we'll keep bouncing back with John and River throughout throughout the evening. So go ahead and give John and River a round of applause. Like the Zoom round of applause. All right. Well, you know, again, I just want to, I'm going to keep reminding this whole group throughout the evening. First of all, how grateful I am that you're here, taking time out of your life, out of your work, out of your evening. Maybe I see people on with family. I see some people on with friends. I said this earlier, but I'll say it again. You know, feel free. You're encouraged to put yourself with your video on as you feel comfortable throughout this call. We're in a time where, you know, we need community. We need one another. And I think there's a lesson from the river that, you know, we're all connected. We're all connected by the water. We're all connected through the river. And tonight, in addition to hearing from our incredible lineup of presenters, many of you have signed up for the Postcards for the River campaign. And there's a chance, I've heard from some folks that your package has arrived. It includes the postcards. Others, it might still be on the way. Either way, during this time while you're here, I'd encourage you to fill out those postcards or write on the paper why you care about the river. And then we're going to be sending these into our elected officials. All right, so I'm putting in the chat right now. This is a Google folder that you have access to, and it has a lot of you know, answers to common questions about these postcards, including how to look up your elected officials and how to address them on the postcard. So last week, you know, I was busy hanging out at the USPS postal office a couple times because I kept having to go back to get stamps because so many of you requested postcards for this campaign. So if you have them now, or if they're arriving, they're already pre-stamped. They're ready, they're good to go. All you need to do is write in why you care about the river, address to your elected official, and put that in the mail. And this is what collective action looks like. And you all joining and being here tonight is what community looks like. So I appreciate you all so much. I'm going to continue to share links in the Google chat, but I just want to highlight one as a reminder. All right, and I just put it in here. It's a Google form. It's also in the folder. After you send your postcards or after you finish them, I need you to record them in this Google form. This informs our strategy, all right, as we keep moving forward. So it's really, really important. I'll keep reminding throughout the night. Enough from me. I'm passing it off to our next guest speakers, and that would be Maisah Khan with the Mississippi River Network and Alayna Chuney with National Caucus of Environmental Legislators. You have the floor, or the Zoom.
Thank you, Michael. And I will just echo my gratitude and excitement about seeing everyone here. Thank you so much for coming. I'm delighted to be in conversation with my colleague, Alayna Chuney. So hi, Alayna.
Hi.
So Alayna is the Mississippi River Coordinator with the National Caucus of Environmental Legislators. NCEL is the acronym you might hear us use. Alayna is an attorney. Alayna specializes in environmental justice issues and solutions. Alayna is a community advocate, and Alayna is dedicated to getting more people of color into the environmental field. So obviously, Alayna is an amazing rock star. And
thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me, Alayna. And I am Maisah. I am the policy manager for the Mississippi River Network. I am based out of St. Louis, Missouri. So St. Louis represent tonight. A lot of St. Louis in the house. Awesome. So yeah, Alayna and I, this is a conversation that we will kick off and then open it up to questions from you all, either about the questions that Alayna and I were kind of contemplating as we thought about tonight's event, and then also opening it up to any questions you all might have about the postcard process. But I'll just start off by saying when Michael was sharing this idea with me about a postcard campaign, I immediately thought about the joy of reaching out to friends and family at the end of the year through holiday cards or what have you. And this is just the season when you build relationships and nurture those relationships that you have with the people that you care about in your family. So why not include your elected officials in your letter writing campaigns during this season? And that's kind of one way that Michael and I brainstormed this idea and got really excited about gathering everyone together in this campaign. And so Alayna, Alayna, I'm happy for you to talk more about what NCEL does, but the question that Alayna and I were really thinking through for tonight is, why is it important? Why is it important that our elected officials hear from us, receive these postcards about why we care about the river? And yeah, that's the question. Why is it important to make your voice heard? And I will turn it over to Alayna, but for me, the beginning and end of the importance is relationship building. And just like I said, the inspiration being like holiday card writing, maintaining those relationships with our elected officials so that they know about the issues that you care about, they know that you live in their district and care about water issues, whether or not there's specific legislation or policy happening that's on their table at this moment about it. Knowing that Alayna Chuney has written me before about the river, the next time something comes through, there is that connection to their constituents. And the other piece of it is that for many of our elected officials, hearing from you, the people who literally live in their districts, is so much different than hearing from a national organization who is going in and having meetings about river issues. It's different than someone based out of DC who might be seeing those electeds and their staff often. That one postcard from you, from a person who lives in their zip code, means a lot more, in my opinion, than it does for just some random person who doesn't live in their district. So, Alayna, I'm curious to know what you think. Why is it important for our voice to be heard?
Well, I'll start off with a brief introduction about what we do at the National Caucus of Environmental Legislators. We work specifically with state legislators around the Mississippi River and within the Mississippi River states to promote sound policies. And right now, a lot of the priorities that we have are around nutrient reduction, sustainable agriculture, wetland protection, and things like that. So, when Maisah raised this idea of doing these postcards, we're like, there has to be more issues that people are, more concerned about. Water quality is such a broad issue that there are so many sub issues that it's important for the legislators to know what you guys are passionate about and what are some of the priorities that you want to see introduced in terms of, where you live at and, to make the Mississippi River a better place. And in pre-COVID, ideally, it would be nice to have us all together, to
Yep.
write on these postcards and to brainstorm. But this Zoom is just as awesome. And to Maisah's point about relationships, that is probably the number one reason why we should be reaching out to our constituents or our legislators. And then number two is communication. Like a lot of times they have priorities, but they don't know what you all are interested in because they don't speak with you. And I know that it's a two-way street. But I think, in times like this, we should be willing to extend that olive branch and say, I'll start the communication first. And this is an issue and I have. And I voted for you. So I'm going to hold you accountable to make sure that these issues are addressed. And in addition, I think it's also important just because it is your right. Citizen advocacy is how we've been getting things accomplished for years. And my experience with the working with the Chesapeake Bay and working in the city of Baltimore, I have always enjoyed teaching people how to use their voice. I think it is so crucial for us to be able to advocate for what we feel is right. And these postcards are like the greatest start to doing that. And then, after the postcards, we have comment letters and we have public hearings. So there are so many other steps that we can do. But like Maisah said, just to say, hey, I'm going to write my, politician this postcard. And then they're going to be like, hey, this person really means business. They want to know more about this. Let me make this a priority. Well, yeah.
Great. Thanks, Alayna. And you kind of started to get into this, and I see one question that's come in through the chat from Jerry. Majority of people care about the river, but they don't know how to help it. And you spoke about a few different ways to get plugged in. What are some different ways that you've seen people get involved on water and river issues?
So I think that, it's important to look at the different levels of government. I know, in my experience, I've worked at the local level. So I've worked at the county, the city, the state, and the federal. And I would say your strongest advocates would probably be city and state. Just because federal, anything that we try to get through, it takes a long time. Um, and, when you're working at those various levels, you have your public comments. You can write a letter. These letters are accepted anytime, all the time. They are read and they are, you can actually look up other people's letters through a FOIA request. Federal, I forgot what FOIA stands for, but it's
Freedom of Information.
Yeah, Freedom of Information. Thank you. So you can do that. And then you can always go to public hearings. Anytime there is something that's drastically impacting the Mississippi River or changing something in your neighborhood, go to the sites. Typically, you can find it on the environmental sites. So if it's Department of Natural Resources, and they have to have a public hearing. Public hearings you can either speak at or write a letter. And then there's always the good go-to, write a postcard, send a letter. So these are just a few ways.
Thanks,
And then,
Alayna.
you can also rally your legislators and have them speak on your behalf.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah. And what comes to mind for me, and I'm tying it back to another question that's come up in the chat about which officials we should prioritize in sending cards to besides our senators and congresspeople. And one thing that I wanted to share with the group is that even all of our electeds have staff based on the Hill in DC, but they also have staff that are based out of the state and the city that you live in. So for example, here in St. Louis, Senator Hawley, Senator Blunt, they have staff who live and work in St. Louis. And that's a whole second set of staff members that help our elected officials who spend most of their time in DC but do shuttle back and forth. Those folks at the in-district level also have influence. And I find that a lot of times, and it's interesting to think about pre and post-COVID times, but in pre-COVID times, I have found that often the in-district staff, one, might know a little bit more about very local issues. So they might know what's coming down the pike, for example, in the state legislature, and they might just be more accessible and available because their schedules aren't constrained to like running in and out of votes and hearings and all of that like the DC staff are. So I would invite you, if you have a stack of postcards, one thing you could do is if you wrote your 2 senators for your state and your 1 representative in the House, that's 3, but each of those 3 decision makers has in-district staff. So you could look up what the contact information, where the offices are for the in-district staff. So that doubles your count. And then the other, I was just going to make a plug for going back to that question about, how can people get involved? The great thing about the Mississippi River Network is that we are a network with organizations all up and down the river. So if you want to know more about which organizations, and we'll hear from some of them tonight, for example, Alayna, NCEL is an organization affiliated with the Mississippi River Network, and we have lots more. So you can find local organizations, local river organizations who are working in your state, working in your city, and get plugged in that way. With that, I think I will open it up to, I haven't been keeping a good eye on the chat, but if there are any questions for me, for Alayna, or for the postcard writing process in general that folks want to ask, I'll open up the floor. And Michael, will people be able to unmute themselves or?
Great question. Thank you, Maisah. Yeah, please, go ahead, unmute yourself and ask a question. Let your voice radiate in this call, or type it in the chat if you want. That's fine too.
Michael, are there any questions that you are receiving that you want to highlight for the group as folks think of their questions? Yeah,
Maisah, could you please say again, elected officials folks could write to?
Yeah, so in each of our states, we have 2 senators whose jurisdiction is the whole state. So each of us has 2 senators in our state. For example, in the state of Missouri, we have Senator Blunt and Senator Hawley. So I could write to both of my senators. You live in a congressional district that is tied to 1 seat in the House of Representatives. So you have 1 House representative, so they are a congressman or woman. For me, I am in Missouri's 1st district, which means my elected official right now in the House is Congressman Lacey Clay, but he was voted. He will not be my congressperson come January. It will be Congresswoman Cori Bush. So at the very least, where you live, you have 3 three elected officials that you can write to who represent you in Congress. And then once we broaden out into their staff, each of those elected officials have staff in DC and also in the district that you live in. So you can write to your elected official in DC using their Washington, DC address, but you could also write to your elected official and send it along to their in-district staff, in which case the folks that staff the office where you live, they would be reading those letters. And then the other thing that you can do if you ask for a big stack of postcards, which first of all, thank you, you're awesome. Another thing you can do is just ask your neighbors, ask other people in your house, because, you know, each of us is an independent constituent. You can ask other people in your house, why do you care about the river? And that way you might be sending 5 postcards in your home to one elected official, but each postcard is from a different constituent with a different reason for why they care about the river.
Wonderful, thank you. We have a question from Mr. Dean Klinkenberg. Dean, do you want to just jump on and raise the question?
I can do that. Hi there, Maisah. Nice to see you.
Hi, Dean.
So we have a lot of turnover coming in our elected reps, or at least some. So as you know, we're going to also have a new mayor next spring because our current mayor is not running again.
Right.
I was wondering if you can think of other local officials that might be worth me sending a postcard to besides the mayor.
Yep, that's a great question. So there are in St. Louis, for example, you can get down to the level of your municipality, and in places like St. Louis, we have alder people. So I have an alderman who represents my ward. So it's the basically kind of like neighborhood level of an elected official. So I might, at the very, very local level, I might write to my alderman. And you can look that up usually through, your city. You can look that up through your city website. You can also, if your mayor is in flux, you can write to your governor. So you can write to Governor Parson here in Missouri. And then if you're really ambitious, Dean, you could do some research and learn who the potential contenders for the position of mayor are in St. Louis, and send your postcard to those people who are running, because they should know that if they're running to be mayor in St. Louis, for example, maybe they should have something about the Mississippi River in their platform, and perhaps, receiving some postcards from a Maisah Khan and a Dean Klinkenberg in St. Louis to, Tashara Jones, for example, maybe that will be one of the first times that they're hearing from their potential future constituents about an issue that you care about. So alder people, or they're called different things in different places. They might be called a city council person where you live, but that is one way. Your governor is another decision maker in your state, and then if for any of these elected positions, if there's any flux, you can research and try to find the people who are running for those positions and send it to those campaign offices. I think that would be super cool. And Alayna, did you want to add anything to that?
Nope, great point. I was just looking at some of the other questions in there as well. To Jill's point, if you send it to the local office, they do share the info. So you don't have to send it to multiple state locations. And then to Kathy's point about DNR, Fish and Wildlife, and U.S. Army, I would not suggest sending a postcard. I would suggest doing something more formal, like a comment letter. there are templates available, which I can look that up and send some to you, where you can just copy the template and then, you know, input what it is your issues are. And then that way they can properly file them so that it is available for the public to view.
Thanks, Alayna.
Mhm.
The floor is still open. If anyone wants to jump off mute, ask a question to Maisah or Alayna.
This is Allie from Minneapolis, and I'm wondering, I don't normally put my return address on postcards. Is that something you want us to do on here? I know there's a spot for zip code, but do you also want a return address on it?
No, I don't. I think we're tracking zip code because, again, that helps that decision maker know that you live in their congressional district. So that's more of a signal to them than anything else. It also helps, I know some offices literally, like, for example, if you're writing to a senator is going to be getting, might be hearing from constituents all across their state. So they might be keeping tallies of, you know, we hear a lot from St. Louis, but nothing from Columbia kind of thing. But don't feel like you have to put your return address.
I just want to quick interrupt regarding zip code and tracking on the One Mississippi side of things. So I'm sharing again right now in the chat a form. As you complete your postcards tonight or in the days to come, I need you to go onto this Google form, and I'll send it again in email and whatnot. But on that form, that is where you will put in your zip code. And then you will also just write, hey, I sent 3 postcards to this senator and this congressperson and this senator, or whatever it may be. This is really critical for our tracking, and it informs our advocacy and outreach strategy as we keep moving. And it just helps build those relationships, as Maisah mentioned in the beginning of this. So just wanted to quick plug that again. The Google form is in the chat as you're filling out your postcards tonight. Keep this step in mind.
And Michael, I will echo that it is so important for us to track what actually goes out, and just to draw that line a little bit. I would love the next time, for example, the Mississippi River Network has fly-ins where we have meetings with these staff. It was virtual this last time around, but I would love to, the next time that we're going into a decision maker's office, say, well, we know that 20 of our river citizens, 100 of our river citizens reached out to you to express, you know, why they care about the river. So that information is so critical for us. And we're really looking forward to be able to highlight your actions like well into 2021, long after you've put it in the mailbox.
We have a few more minutes on this part of the agenda where we have Maisah and Alayna on. So these are your experts, people. If you have questions about the postcards, about addressing the nitty-gritty of it, now is a great time to bring those questions forward. And please don't feel shy. Go ahead, jump off mute. Again, let your voice radiate over Zoom. We're connecting together across a large distance. So go ahead, go off mute and ask your question.
Maisah, I'm going to go ahead and ask a question.
Yes.
Kelly.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi, Maisah. I know of at least one person who doesn't live in Basin and ordered, who's an enthusiastic postcard writer. This person is my sister. And, you know, got into advocacy and postcard writing. And she was thinking in that same kind of vein of like, I need to get this message out to everyone. So she ordered a bunch of postcards for herself to write. And I said, that was fine, and you may not carry as much weight, but would, could you talk if there's any people that were thinking in that same, like, I want to send 20 postcards to a bunch of people,
Yes.
even though they're not mine? Is that?
That is a great question, Kelly. Thank you for asking that. One, I will say that everything helps. So just because Alayna and I have gone, hammered down this point of hearing from you to your elected official is super important. That being said, everything helps. So it is a-okay that your sister is writing to electeds not living in their districts. Everything helps. So that's my number 1, number 2, number 3 point. Number 4 point is, I think another thing that makes your engagement so impactful is your stories. So if your sister is writing about their experience, why they care about the Mississippi River, not even having lived near it, or maybe your sister is writing about how my sister Kelly McGinnis does live on the river, and that's why it's important. I care about my family. It's something that's important to me. That is important. That's very impactful for a decision maker to hear. So that is the next kind of thought that I have. And then also, I will say, when it comes down to making big picture decisions about legislation that have to do with the Mississippi River, at the end of the day, all of our decision makers have to vote for it. So it is not just the senators and congresspeople whose districts are near the river. Congress, when they're passing legislation, all of them have to vote. So even if she's starting with perhaps with the electeds who are on the river, and then writing to her own senator and congressperson about how she cares about the Mississippi River, that's wonderful, because even a senator that represents Oregon, is she in California or Oregon? Yeah, even those senators will have to be voting on legislation and supporting policies that have to do with the river. And Alayna, did I miss anything?
No, perfectly put. Just to summarize, there is something about having a large number of people talk about the same issue. And, while it might be different subtopics, the biggest issue is the Mississippi River. And then to Libby's point, it is equally important to send postcards to local mayors, county government officials, because there's, this checks and balances. All of the, federal priorities, they delegate power to the states delegate power to the city, to the county level. So it's like each part of the Mississippi River is slowly being broken up into each of these different branches of power. So it's so important to get all of them on the same page. And by, sending postcards to each of them, I think you're sending a message that there needs to be some type of unity, and we can't silo this issue.
Brilliant.
Thank you, Alayna and Maisah.
All right. Well, Alayna, it was awesome to be in conversation with you. And I will be around for the rest of the event. So if other questions pop into your mind, you can, direct message me through this event. I will also type in my contact info. So if something comes up later, feel free to email me anytime. But with that, I will say thank you so much for being here with me, Alayna. And
Thank you for having me. And I put my information in the chat in case you guys have any questions, or if you need to know anything about who your state legislators are, or just any of that information, feel free to email me.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, 2020 certainly has been a year of learning. And so I'm going to teach everyone a little move on Zoom. and it's called thanking a presenter, and you just do it with your hands. Go ahead, we'll give a big round of applause to our presenters. Alayna and Maisah, thank you all so much for that, giving us the knowledge that we need to make a difference for the river. So we really appreciate your time. If you have further questions for either of these two, go ahead, drop them in the chat, and we'll make sure they get addressed. So with that, we're going to take a little stretch break. We're going to invite John back in. Woo! I see him back there packing up for a trip right now. And so in our next segment here, you know, I really encourage everyone to digest some of this information that we just were allowed to learn. I mean, there was a lot there. And so while you're doing some of that digestion, enjoy some music, and keep writing those postcards. Again, if you don't have the postcards, either you haven't signed up for the campaign, I'll include the link in the chat so you can do so. But just grab a little piece of paper that's right next to you, or a notebook, and jot down what you're feeling, what you're thinking about. If you were, you know, our elected officials answer to us, okay? So I know this year has been particularly strange, connecting with people, and perhaps you've never contacted your senator before. That is totally fine. That's totally good, and you're welcome here. All right, so well, it's for what you need to do right now is just write on that piece of paper or on the postcard why you care about the river, and together, you know, we're making a big splash tonight. So we've already had 7 people submit their Google Forms. And again, the Google form is what you submit as you're completing your postcards that helps us track who's being contacted through this campaign. Uncle John, Mr. River, passing it over to you.
I'm just gonna pretend we're sitting around a fire, and provide some atmosphere. What's that?
Yes, it is.
He is, I think it's House. I think so.
Jackson is Robert Jackson.
He's state senator.
States, okay.
Yeah, Cindy.
Many times said Senator Jackson. Robert Jackson.
Lay down the song you strung and let yourself be struck by strings. No voice can hold you long. Struck by the sounds before the dawn. I knew the night had gone. Burning like a bag of blue. Against the drums of dawn. The last of leaves fell from the trees, and onto a new love's breast. The crying rain like a banjo sang to the winds that listen back. Lay down your weary to lay down. Lay down the song you strung and let yourself be struck by strings. No voice can hold you long. The ocean wild like an organ blade. The seaweed wove its strands. The waves like cymbals clashed against the rocks and sands. Lay down your weary to lay down. Lay down the song you strung the crying rain like that banjo sings. And as for Noah, lay down your worry to lay down. Lay down the Sunday and let yourself be struck by screens. No voice can hope to hum. Woo! You sound like Elvis. To the shining on the side of the river. Oh, it goes in pieces. Straight from the north. Yeah, I will look through the willows on the branches of the beaches for the sound that forever flows through it all. Right on, brother.
Wow. Thank you, Uncle John. Thank you, River. We appreciate you both so much. I hope everyone had a great time during those tunes, writing your postcards. You know, we're almost now, oh, someone else is trying to get in. People just keep coming into the waiting room. It's wonderful. We were almost 50 people, and I think, you know, we'll have folks that keep coming in throughout the night. I want to switch gears fairly quickly here to our next presenter. And I'm not even going to try to introduce them. I'm gonna let them introduce themselves and what they're up to this coming year. Scott, Joel.
Yes, hello. Thank you so much, Michael. I hope everybody can hear me. My name is Scott Miller. Okay, cool. I am sitting about 8 blocks west of the Mississippi River right now here in South Minneapolis. And the craziest thing is that Michael and I do not know each other, but I was literally out paddling on the river in the dark, I think 3 days ago, which you should only do at this time of year if you have the proper clothing and extensive training. And it was dark out, and somehow he could see that someone was on the river. He happened to be on the bank of the river, and he yelled out, "Woohoo!" And I was like, who is yelling at me right now? And I yelled out woohoo back, and it actually was like a nice moment. And then he saw my video on social media and realized that he and I, so we haven't met, but we've woohooed each other very recently, which is quite a coincidence. But anyways, the reason I was on the river and the reason why I'm here today is because I have a team of 4 people, and we are going to attempt to set the Guinness World Record for fastest canoe trip or self-powered trip down all 2,296 miles of the beautiful Mississippi River. And we're going to do that in May of 2021. And actually, 2 of my teammates are on this call right now. Perry Whitaker is on the call, who's definitely a friend of the Mississippi River Network. And then Joel Ford is also joining us from Maryland. Joel is an experienced, accomplished adventure racer. He was actually on the 2018 National Championship winning adventure racing team. And Perry is canoed hundreds, I think thousands of miles on the Missouri River and the Mississippi. In fact, he's a bit of an expert on the middle Mississippi, the section from St. Louis to where the Ohio comes in. So I feel very lucky to have both of them on my team. And then I just got our 4th paddler figured out, and he's a guy who knows less about the Mississippi River, but is an expert on the Boundary Waters canoe wilderness up on the Canadian border here in Minnesota, and has also paddled thousands of miles. So his name is Adam Mocht. Anyways, I don't want to take too much time, but I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what our trip looks like. So we have a 23-foot canoe, and we are going to live in this canoe for hopefully less than 18 days, 4 hours and 51 minutes. That's the current record that was set in 2003. And with the 4 of us in the canoe, the goal, the hope is to have 3 people paddling at all times and 1 person resting. And so we actually have a 10-foot section in the middle of the canoe that has a canopy on it, an arched canopy, and 1 person can be safely and hopefully warmly ensconced in that little area while the other 3 paddle. And we'll just keep switching. And then we have an extensive support crew that's going to be supporting us both from land for the first 4 days, and then by boat for the last 13 or so days. And all of us are going to get to see the whole beautiful river. And we'll be paddling 24/7. So what's kind of interesting from our perspective is it's kind of neat. The Mississippi actually has almost 600 miles just in the state of Minnesota. And there's 14 dams from Itasca State Park, which is the start of the river, to Minneapolis. And we have to portage around each of those 14 dams. Then once we get to Minneapolis, of course, now we have the barge traffic and the river becomes industrial. And there's 28 lock and dams that we have to go through or around. And then once we get to St. Louis, of course, then it's what some people describe as the largest wilderness in the lower 48 because it's 1,000 miles long and at times 70 miles wide between the levees. And it'll just be us and the barges out there and some wild animals. So we're really excited about our big adventure. Okay, let me just see if I have anything else to say here. Oh, okay, so we have a website that is MississippiSpeedRecord.com. And if you search for Mississippi Speed Record on Facebook, we're actually going to have a GPS with us and people will be able to see where we're at all times. So hopefully we'll have kind of an interactive thing going on there. And we are still looking for volunteers to be part of our support crew. If anybody's interested, let me know. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say. And if we have time for a question or two now, we can do that. Otherwise, Michael, we can do that later, whatever you think.
Absolutely, yeah. If you have a question, go ahead, jump off mute, let your voice radiate over Zoom. I think I'm gonna start getting a quarter every time I say that, and ask your question out loud to Scott and the paddling team.
What are the dates again?
Okay, well, that is a great question. So we're hoping to launch on May 6th. But I'll tell you, because it's interesting, it's a little bit complicated. The northernmost point of the Mississippi River is just west of a lake that's 18 miles wide, Lake Winnebagoshus. And the latest that the ice has ever gone out on that lake is May 20th. So usually it goes out by the end of April. And so we're hoping to be able to launch May 6th. The other thing is we're going to watch the weather forecast. And if it's better to go on May 3rd or 4th or 5th, we'll launch then because we're hoping for a good wind forecast when we make that epic lake crossing. So at the beginning of May, sometime in the first week of May is the hope.
Scott, are you doing anything special to train either physically or mentally?
Well, I apologize for the messy room, but you'll see that right behind me here is my fancy rowing machine with a canoe paddle adapter. And so I get on that most days when I can't get on the river itself. I've never been on the river in December here in Minneapolis before, but it was warm enough the other day that I could do that. So, and then actually we're going to be talking to Mr. Mark River Peoples and John Ruskey hopefully soon, because we're going to head down to to Mississippi Way in January for a training trip where it hopefully will be a little warmer. And around January 20th, we're going to be for a few days down there. And of course, not everybody knows this maybe, but John Ruskey and those guys down there, they have this incredible website all about the lower river called River Gator that's been a great help to us. So we've already benefited from their expertise.
Cool.
What's your boat made of, Scott?
Our boat is made by Winona Canoe Company here in Minnesota. They are actually located right on the Mississippi River, and they take people out all the time. And our boat is made out of Kevlar. They have a new material called Integra that they're using now. But anyway, they're very lightweight. It's a very lightweight boat, and they're very common in the boundary waters in northern Minnesota because you have to do all the portaging. So it really helps to have a lightweight. It's a strong boat, but very light.
I have a question. How many miles do you guys plan on doing a day?
On our longest, best days when the water's really moving, we will probably do over 200 miles in 24 hours.
All right, I already did the math. I was just checking to know, see if you knew what you were doing.
Well, what's cool is we have a spreadsheet and we know about every 100 miles how fast they went when they set the record. So we know at every point, we'll know how far ahead or behind we are. And there'll be times when if we're averaging 3.5 miles an hour, we'll be happy because in that section of the river, that's appropriate. When we get down to where you guys are, we better be going at least 7 miles an hour or we'll be in trouble. So of course, we're hoping for good water levels.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the run through, Scott. In a direct message, Jackie, I apologize, I'm sharing this out loud, but she said, let's plan a cheering party when they paddle through town. So, you know, maybe within this community that's been involved with the postcards and the evening with the river tonight. And then of course, our river citizen community, which by the way, if you are currently not a river citizen, you're missing out. Please go to onemississippi.org and sign up, become a river citizen. It's totally free. We're a community of 20,000 people strong, all along the river, across the watershed. And I'm thinking we can organize maybe, yeah, we got Michael Anderson and Wabasha holding up the I'm a river citizen button. Thank you, Mikey, appreciate that. I think we can organize something, Scott, Perry, Joel, you know, as you all paddle down, let's reconnect in 21 here and figure something out. Wonderful. Well, let's give Scott a round of applause. Thank you. Thanks for joining today. We're going to now move to our next presenter, and my words will not do this woman's work any justice. Her name is Libby Reuter with Watershed Cairns, and I'm going to pass it right on over. Libby, please go ahead. Hold on, Libby. We have you on mute.
I am unmuted.
You're live.
Okay, yeah. So thank you. Thank you all river citizens for inviting me to come talk with you. And I am searching here for a video I want to show you, which kind of introduces our work. This is Josh Rowan and I are partners on this. He's a photographer. And excuse me just a minute while I get to it. Technology.
No problem, Libby. Take your time. I'll just make a quick reminder. As you're filling out your postcards this evening, I just included into the chat. This is where you submit your postcards. So this is where you let us know how many postcards you sent, who you're sending them to, and this. I apologize if you've been on this whole call. You've heard this a couple times, but this informs our outreach and advocacy strategy as we keep moving. And something I have forgotten to mention, when you fill out this form, it's like it takes less than 30 seconds. It's super easy. You are automatically enrolled in our end of campaign prize drawing giveaway. All right, so we have these sweaters, these Heather blue. One Kelly has hers on too. Fantastic. Maisah has hers on. We'll be doing a drawing after, as well as some other items. We have water bottles, all the materials that we prepared to share with our community throughout 2020 that kind of got held up with the pandemic. So,
okay, I've got the video here now. So this is a video that Channel 9 did, and just let me figure out how to share the screen here. Channel 9 is our local public television show. Remind me where I find this share screen, Michael?
Yeah, absolutely. So scroll down to the bottom of your screen in the center. You'll see that green box, share screen.
It's not showing up.
Michael, you might have to give Libby hosting permissions to be able to.
Okay. Perfect. Libby, you are now the host.
Okay, then can you see my screen now?
I cannot yet. Does the share screen, do you see the option now?
No, this is filling the whole screen. Let me try to make it smaller.
Option, if it's a link or a file, you could email it to myself or Michael, and we could share our screens.
Okay, Michael, I think you have it. let me see if I can do this little back ass words. And can you help me with the share screen, Bill?
Yeah, get back into it.
Get back into it.
To the screen where everybody is. To the Zoom.
That's the problem here.
You're offline. You're off the Zoom.
Okay. So,
Get back in Zoom.
yeah, that's easy to see, but I don't know how to do it.
What is this?
I will say, while you all are troubleshooting, Libby, this is an excellent way to build suspense. We are all like just even more excited now to see this introductory video about your beautiful watershed, Cairns. So
yeah, can you see me? Because I've lost you.
Yes, we can all still see you.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Libby, if you can't, the icons at the bottom, sometimes the Zoom screen will take everything up, and if you hit the escape button, then you might be able to get back to us.
Okay, thank you. Well, let me just tell you a little bit about what we do. So Josh Rowan and I, Josh is a photographer and I am a sculptor, and I build things from glass that I find at flea markets and yard sales, and assemble them, stack them. So our name, Watershed Cairns. Watershed obviously is the land where all the water runs to the Mississippi River that we all live in. And that's the reason we started this project, is just feeling that people need to know that what a watershed is, and that what we do on the land matters for what happens in the rivers. And so the other term, Cairns, most of you river people and hikers know the term because it means, if you click on that, you'll get to the address. They're saying we're still visible. So a cairn is usually a stack of rocks that people find along the trail and leave a marker, so either to say, I've been here, or I climbed this hill, or something like that. And we create these temporary markers where we're trying to draw people's attention to the watershed. Yeah, we're kind of stuck here. Okay. Michael, can you still hear me?
yes, I can still hear you.
If you would go to YouTube and type in Watershed Cairns, the first thing that will come up will be Living St. Louis, Watershed Cairns.
Right. Fantastic. This one is not paywall. Good. Okay. Would you like me to share the screen now, Libby?
Would you? And while you're doing that, we'll keep trying here and see if we can figure this out.
Absolutely. All right. I will need a thumbs up. Can people hear?
Here you are.
It, but I don't think we'll.
Okay, I've got it now. I'm going to hit share screen.
Please, yes, please do. Oh, wait, stop. All right, go.
Okay. Oh, now I have you on the screen. That's it.
I'm sorry to hear that. Geez, that's a rough way to spend your evening.
Well, I'm sorry to subject you all to this.
Make sure whoever shares the screen clicks the boxes for optimizing for video and audio when you screen share. Otherwise, it won't play the audio.
Okay. Okay, I have got it up here. Got it. Let's go.
Yay!
Know where it would take them or literally how deep they'd get into it.
Oh, takes a village.
Be careful, Ron. Libby, you want me to be up there with you? I can walk beside you and look at rocks and stuff.
That might be a good idea, just to
Okay.
get across.
An artist, a photographer, and an environmentalist walk into a river. It's not the start of a joke, it's the start of a collaboration. Actually, the continuation of something that's been going on the last few years. You can already see the result. The Watershed Cairns exhibit has been on display at the Missouri History Museum. A series of photographs of these glass sculptures, they call them cairns, placed in all kinds of different spots, but never haphazardly. So I sometimes think that art suffers from overthinking and over-explanation, but there is a message here. They want us to be thinking about water. They want us to be thinking about how we value clean water. They want us to think about water this way, and they want us to think about water this way.
Mostly, we visit the location and then create a cairn that says something about it. Sometimes I make things and then later we say, ah, that's where it goes.
This is Libby Reuter's basement studio, where she creates the cairns. It is filled with glass and more glass.
Salvation Army, Goodwill, yard sales, estate sales, and friends will break a piece of glass. For example, this used to be a wine glass here and will become part of a piece.
When it's done, she and photographer Joshua Rowan go out to find just the right spot, the right angle, the light, the time of day to capture and create their final composition.
It's an attempt to get people to know what a watershed is and to identify the places on the watershed where they live.
They've been doing this all over the metropolitan area, or more accurately, all over the watershed. All of our water and often our sewage in this area ultimately drains into the big rivers, which is also where we get our drinking water. But they hadn't yet done anything on the Merrimack River, which is not just a popular recreation spot, but also a water source for a lot of people. So she created this cairn with the Merrimack River in mind, but they had yet to find the right place or places to put it.
So Ron Coleman, who was executive director of the Open Space Council, and by all reports, the person who knows more about the Merrimack River than anyone, has agreed to take us on a scouting tour.
We met up with them under the Interstate 44 bridge carrying the disassembled cairn. The day before, Ron Coleman had them out on a boat far upriver looking at spots. Now he was bringing them to a spot where they could use the old Route 66 bridge as a background. It's closed, but Coleman would like to see it reopened to pedestrians and cyclists.
It's a wonderful opportunity to put the Merrimack watershed on a pedestal, so to speak. The beauty of it is it's so accessible to the large metropolitan area like St. Louis that people can access the water or the parks or the conservation land or the trails so easily. Josh seems to be captivated with those old pilings.
Yeah, that's the perfect pedestal for the piece.
That probably dates back to the late 1800s or 1900s.
I've had art collaborations, you know, over the years just on, you know, visual images, but something like this is a whole other beast. All right.
Yeah.
you know what you were getting into?
No, that's the short answer. But we did have an idea from the beginning of the concept, but like most concepts, when you get down to the wading through the water on the slimy rocks to put the piece, that's a different level of realization.
You know, as we were coming across the water, at points, you know, getting close to waist deep, Libby's carrying this beautiful cairn, and there's the constant risk of slipping and falling and breaking it. There's something about the glass and the fragility of the glass, you know, that really draws a line to the watershed, and you know, the kind of the dual importance of the thing. So
The empathy that people feel for the fragile glass, and we hope it extends to the watershed, the rivers around it.
feel good about what I got, but yeah, this is a different.
Well, and I'm still thinking about billboard-like shots. A lot of times the first question people ask is, where are they? Can I see them? And you really leave them in the space? So frequently you have to explain that we remove them.
You know, really feel most of the time that we're just kind of, you know, forging through the dark, figuring it out as we go. Pretty often end up coming away with a different image than, you know, even thought was possible.
Right. Thank you. Any questions about it? Did I lose sound again?
No, we can hear you, Libby.
Oh, good, good, excellent. Now if I can figure out how to get this. Does anybody have any questions while I deal with this?
When are you coming to Minneapolis to do some caring?
We have been, and that's what I'm trying to show you, is that after we did work on the in the St. Louis area, we decided we needed to do work on the entire Mississippi, the length of the Mississippi. And we've put together a book. Let's see if we can share this one. Are you seeing this one?
Not yet.
Okay. Oh, I think we have the same problem with the no share screen key.
Libby Michael was holding it up in the background.
That's right. While you're pulling it up, here's the Watershed Cairns book of the Mississippi River North. Libby,
correct.
Where?
Go ahead, Michael.
Well, you know, and I feel like I keep coming back to this theme of 2020. And I'm so inspired that we can connect virtually in this way. And I tell you what, when I received this Watershed Cairns book in the mail, and I pick it up, some days I'm having just like a long work day. Maybe I've had way more screen time than river time. I can just grab this book and I flip through, and, you know, Allie just had a great question about coming to Minneapolis. And I would love to just show one picture.
Please do, because I'm struggling here.
So this picture right here, I think is coming through. This is one of the giant cottonwood trees down at Whitatonka or Pike Island, where the Bedote, the confluence of the Minnesota and the Mississippi River. And well, I just became engaged right at that spot. And then all of a sudden this book shows up at my house, and it's this beautiful, beautiful watershed, this beautiful cairn, just radiating in the crook of this giant cottonwood. So I just wanted to ask Libby, how do people get these books? How do people order, you know, one of these watershed cairns, the Mississippi River North?
Well, I have a slide for that, but don't seem to be able to get to it. So my partner, Josh Rowan, has photography website, joshuarowanphotography.com. And on that book, on that website, we have these books for sale. And they are $30. They're 9 inches by 12 inches, 85 pages, 44 images from the Lake Itasca to the confluence with the Ohio. And it's $30 for the book plus $5 for shipping in United States. So we hope people will, and I'm so sorry that I cannot share with you more of the images. Maybe Michael can show you some more.
I'll pull up some more images, and while I do that, you know, if you have a question for Libby, maybe about any question for Libby, go ahead, jump off mute and just raise the question. I'll just flip through this Watershed Cairns book.
Libby, how long have you been working on the Watershed Cairns project?
Well, we started in 2011. In 2015-16, we went up to Lake Itasca, and we did Lake Itasca to St. Louis over the next 3 years. And then last year, we kind of finished it up, going all the way down to the Ohio, so that we would be able to show the funnel shape that is these 3 great rivers, the Ohio, the Mississippi, and the Missouri. And we hope, weather permitting, that we will be able to do the southern leg of the Mississippi. And then the plan is to do 5 books, the Upper Miss being the first one. The Missouri, we have 2 books, the length of the Missouri being as long or longer than the Mississippi, and then the Ohio, which we just finished in October, and that would be one book. So that's the plan.
Libby, this is Virginia, and I don't really have a question, but my comment is, you know, being familiar with your work, I'm always so amazed at how you really teach through your art what a watershed is, because it could be a very urban setting, it could be very deep in nature, it could be along the river, it could be in a stream, it could be in a brick alley. And I just think it's so inspiring, because a lot of people really don't wrap their heads around what a watershed really is. And I think you really illustrate that in your art so well.
Well, thank you. Yeah, the idea is that we know that the land, that it's not just the Mississippi River or just the Missouri River, it's all of the streams, sewers, storm sewers, all of that goes through our backyards and it ultimately ends up in the Mississippi. And hopefully when people see the work, and we've had a number of exhibits, as you know, that they generally say, oh, I know that. My family used to camp near there, or that's just up the street from where my grandfather lived. Or people see these images and they identify with it. And that's the idea, because what you love, you will protect. When you see art and you fall in love with it, then hopefully you'll carry that with you in your heart and write letters to your legislators.
Wonderful. Well, let's do our new Zoom trick. Give Libby a round of applause.
Thank you all for your patience, and I'll have to practice some more.
You know what, Libby? Why don't we connect after this? Not tonight, soon, and let's schedule another event presentation. We'll do a full 45 minutes with you. We'll go through the slides. You can share the photos. We'll invite all the wonderful folks gathered here tonight, plus the other river citizens. How's that sound?
I would love to do that.
All right.
Thanks again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. All right, well, we have one question. How do we send a postcard to Corey Bush? I don't want to waste a stamp on clay. Maisah? Alayna?
Yeah, that is a great question. So, and Michael and I talked about this a little bit. So many of our newly electeds are still going through the process of, there's like a lottery process by which new folks get their offices, like their literal office assignment. And there's also a little bit there are some unknowns about which electeds will be working out of DC given COVID and all of that. So, Kathy, I agree with you, and I can't wait to send Corey Bush a postcard. So one option is Corey has still has a campaign office address here in St. Louis. So that's one option, but the other option, and Michael, let me know if this is okay. If you wait just until the official new congressional session starts in January, we'll have her office, like the House building number, and you can make sure that it's actually getting to Corey Bush. Is that okay, Michael? If we just hold on, yeah. So the other postcards, please go ahead and send. And then I think you can oh, you found great. I think the campaign office is perfectly fine. I imagine they'll be like, you know, forwarding along and transferring over. But for her official office, we'll have to wait until that's all settled and published in the new session.
Something I will add on there regarding the postcards specifically, and Alayna and Maisah mentioned this earlier on in our call. These are a great these are a great way to engage with your elected officials, and it doesn't need to stop here, right? This can be like one step on that path of becoming a more and more involved advocate for the Mississippi River. Okay, so also with that, we can send you more postcards. All right. So I have plenty here at One Mississippi HQ in my mobile office in Minneapolis. And, you know, just shoot me an email anytime, michael@onemississippi.org, michael@onemississippi.org. I'll put it in the chat. We're you know, I'll leave this for Kelly. Maybe she'll share a little bit more about the Mississippi River Network and about One Mississippi. But just know, like, we're a personable group, and we are here to work with you to make a difference for the river. So, like, I just am so humbled by, you know, we're almost at 8 p.m. and we still have nearly 40 people on this Zoom call on a Wednesday in December during a pandemic, after like X, Y, and Z has been going on for you and your family and those who care about, and you're here. And we're here together, you know. And I think, again, I said this before in this call, I'll say it again, the river connects us. And, you know, Uncle John Ruskey, couldn't agree more. I actually learned it from him. So we have the opportunity to work with one another, learn from one another, and grow together. So with that, I'm just going to make a slight agenda tweak, and we're going to move right over to Kelly McGinnis, the Executive Director with the Mississippi River Network, and Mark River Peoples. And I'm going to let both of them share a little bit more about themselves and the podcast, and, you know, we'll have some Q&A as well, maybe some more river music from John to wrap up our evening. So if you have questions, please drop them in the chat. Kelly, River, the Zoom is yours.
Well, I just have to say it's so nice to see everybody here tonight. So thank you really for joining us. We haven't done a virtual event for our public. No. I often have internet problems. So it's just wonderful to see this pilot project going so well. But I would actually love it, Mark, River, Peoples, River, if you would kick us off and share. Mark's been with One Mississippi and the Mississippi River Network longer than I have. And I've learned a lot from him, and getting to work with with rivers, but is one of the joys of my job. So River, I'm gonna let you kick us off.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. This is a good evening. You know, being a river guide, it's hard to stay up after the sun goes down, but I am still up and excited about hanging out with you all. We've been quarantining in our bubble for, since March, and we've had a lot of, not really any cancellations, but we had to postpone a lot of our trips to next year. But, once we got later in the season, the family started calling us, people who had been spending quarantine together, and we figured out a way to get on the river safely. We've make sure everyone has tests before we go, and it's been very successful for us. It's given us the action in order to make us through the winter. So we are so fortunate, and we just kind of always get stronger whenever we have some type of adversity. So we're dug in deeper than ever now, man. We are stuck in the mud when it comes to the Mississippi River. So it's just great to see all you all. I hope you guys have been catching up with my podcast. John and I have been quarantined together since March, and we have somehow inspired each other when we come to these podcasts, and we've been going into the studio and just making magic. And it's been wonderful. John's been writing like crazy, as you can see. We're hoping that maybe later on in 2021, we put together a river album for him. I don't think he's had an album out in 20 years, so we're gonna get him back in the circuit. And when it comes to the podcast, you guys got to go listen to it. We've done two this year already, and they've both been about flooding. One dealing with infrastructure, and the latest one with climate change. I don't listen to them until I hear somebody give me a good report on it. So I haven't listened to it yet. So I'm going to soon. But yeah, you guys, the next one's going to be on the Yazoo Pump. So I'm going to be reaching out to each of you all. And I think we're going to make it, I'm going to try to get some of our government officials involved. I think if I can get some meetings with them and discuss the pumps with them, I think they'll have an idea what's really going on, because I don't think they're hearing the proper information. But yeah, this is it's been they say trials and tribulations make you stronger. So we've gotten stronger, and I didn't realize how much I like myself. I've been spending all the time by myself. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to get out again, man. I love myself. But yeah, I've been having a good time, and we've been I've been writing a lot, but I haven't finished anything because I was waiting for after the election. So now I'm finishing it all, buddy. So it's going great. And thank you guys for all the books that you guys suggested to read. I think it's made us all better people. And let's start being a little bit more inclusive on the river and get everybody involved, because John and I have seen a really good thing happen when it comes to families coming to the river and getting kids involved early in life. And a lot of these kids are already not afraid of the river. So when they get older, they're going to be pro-river. And that's what we're trying to do here. And we're just going to continue to bring generations along. And this is what we do. So we have no idea. We don't have to focus on one Mississippi, because that's what we do every day. So we appreciate all you all. Thank you guys for being involved. And I'll be checking those numbers on the podcast. So you guys better go listen to it, because I know where you live.
Oh, River.
John has nothing to say. So if you guys want him to play some more music, he can get on the guitar, or we can continue the conversation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I want to ask you, River, a couple questions before I move on. And then there's also a request in the chat if you guys would be willing to share any of the beautiful artwork behind you from Aaron and Angie. I believe I do not know how to pronounce your name with last name Youngbluth. So not to put pressure on you, but if you wouldn't mind, if you want to show a picture, John, there's appetite for that. But River, you've had a lot of great success connecting with your local community and youth, and who previously weren't connected to the river, or had a relationship, or maybe even felt safe around the river. Can you just speak a little bit about how you've built a community of young people in your area that are really connected to the river? Because I think what you've done.
the main thing you have to do, and this is because you're dealing with an older generation who have told those kids to stay away from the river and bad things about the river. But what you have to do is you have to show back up in town. Every time John and I come back in town and someone sees us, that's another successful trip. And then they start asking more and more questions like, these guys keep showing up, so something must be going right out there. You know what I'm saying? So that's why we always say the trip's not over till we get home safely, and our clients. So we've made it look, even though it's not easy, we've made it look easy. So people are trusting us more and more. And once the word get out that we are bringing people back, then, you know, it's down here in the Delta, once one family does it, everybody has to do it. So, and we're taking advantage of all that.
Awesome.
The kids, where the kids go, the parents follow, and the kids follow Mark River, because he does things that they want to emulate, and they sense in him a person that is they look up to and want to follow. And then once the kids go, then the parents follow.
And yeah, and just like, you know, the One Mississippi program, I think that's taught me a lot how to bring people together. So it helps me on the river also. So, you know, whenever we get out there, you know, you just kind of let the river do its work. And then whenever they have questions for you, you just got to have answers for them. And if you don't know the answer, you got to be willing to say you don't know. So then they'll keep trusting you.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it'd be great if we could all be more comfortable admitting there's a lot we don't know, and we can find out the answer later.
Yes.
Okay, and I'll show you all a few paintings. I don't know the best way to do this, but here is a painting of an old guy back in the woods. Can you all see this? This is actually a depiction of Dale Sanders, the oldest guy to paddle the Mississippi River. He, okay, I see.
Hey, John, I'm sorry to interrupt. Will you move it close to the screen and then go back and kind of do that a couple times?
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Light too. This is called The Loneliness of the Long Distance Paddler. Scott and Joel and you guys, you're going to be feeling this. But you'll be in a canoe having your lone moments. And Dale, you know, became the oldest guy to paddle the Mississippi River 5 years ago or something. And then he went and hiked the Appalachian Trail, became the oldest guy to do that. And here is the original watercolor that became a map poster of Big Island. This is Big Island, which is thought to be the biggest island in between the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean in the continental United States. And here is Mississippian Man. And over here is a northern Parula, and here is a depiction of Orion, the paddler. We see a paddler in Orion, and here is our Mississippi state flag. Woo-woo! Woo-woo! Mississippi voted in a new flag, and we all got a chance to. That's not the one that was chosen, but it has elements of the one that was chosen. And here is a scene from Island 62. And here's another scene from Island 62, which is one of our favorite islands. And I saw my daughter in the Milky Way last winter, and I'm having a hard time doing this, but she's up here with Delphinus, the dolphin, and Corvus, the crow, and I saw her eyes in the Milky Way. And here, thank you, brother. Here is a a ruby-throated hummingbird. And going to the Mississippi Gulf Coast, the Mississippi does end up in the Gulf of Mexico. And what we do in all of our watersheds and tributaries of the Mississippi River end up affecting everyone in the Gulf of Mexico. And I mean, when I say everyone, I mean all the creatures that live there. And this is actually really sad. It was this is a baby dolphin that had died and washed up on the shore. It was one of the most saddest things I'd ever seen. It still brings me a feeling. And here, this was never completed, but here is what the eclipse looked like over Tower Rock, Illinois in 5 years ago, whenever that was. Total eclipse over the Mississippi River as viewed from Tower Rock. And here's another depiction of the same thing. So anyway, when we're on the river, we're always looking at the sky or the water or the creatures that are inhabiting the biota in between. And we believe in democracy for all creatures, all 5 million species and counting. And we have one vote in that democracy, us Homo sapiens, and the rest of creation has about 4,199,999 votes. Right on, brother. Right on.
Wonderful. John, thank you for taking us on the tour and sharing those moving pieces. Kelly, anything else you'd like to add right now? I'll pass it over.
Yeah, I only just want to again just thank everyone for showing up tonight. It's really been wonderful, and I think one of the strengths of our organization we think of our strength is all of you in this community, and so want to always have that be a two-way street too. So when we say we want to hear from you, we mean it, and we take that relationship seriously. So we are a small team, and we care very deeply about the river and wanting to provide solutions that work for everyone, for all people, and the land, water, wildlife, a holistic approach. So just know we are in this with you and want to help you elevate your voice for the river and the issues in your community. So just thank you for showing up tonight, and please, let's just be a beginning of us, doing more like this. And then when we can safely be together, let's be together in person.
Right on, Kelly. Thank you for everything that you do, Kelly.
Wow. Feels like one of those evenings I wish we, just were sitting out together by the fire, or looking, sitting under the stars and just able to soak in this and keep it going. I also recognize that we're on Zoom right now, and things feel a little bit different, but I just would echo what Kelly, one of the sentiments of just thanking you all for jumping on tonight. I am going to make a final sort of announcement, the run through with the postcards. What I will do, sorry, I can't do two things at once. I'll just share. There is the Google resource folder, and I will send that out again by email. I'll put in the chat again, and that's where you can find, how to address your elected officials, how to look up your senator, et cetera. Also in that Google folder, it is the form to fill out when you're done with your postcards, all right? And this is really, really, really important for the work that we do, that you take the time 30 seconds to complete that form. We have 12 responses already, which is wonderful. So I'll share that form again. And, you know, when you do submit the form, you are automatically enrolled in the prize giveaway at the end of the campaign, which will be, you know, we'll be ordering some more of these One Mississippi sweaters. They're very nice. They're very warm. They're very cozy, which is just, you know, something we all need more of these days. So that's my final logistical announcement regarding the postcard campaign. If you haven't signed up, there is still space to do so. And I'll include that in a follow-up email as well of how to access that. So, you know, to kind of bring our evening and evening with the river to close, I'd just like to open it up if anyone has any final comments, any final questions for myself, or probably more importantly, any questions for our wonderful presenters that have joined us this evening. After that, John, we'd be so humbled if you'd close us out with a song. So first, we'll just open it up. And for anyone, I just want a quick one more thing. I'm sorry. Shout out to Joel Ford, who has been rowing or paddling for the last hour. He's training, as well as Scott and Perry. And so I'll also just include links from all the presenters here this evening. Libby, your book, you know, et cetera. So we can keep this river love going and support our community. So yeah, Kelly.
Yeah, I just want to say, and I wrote this in the chat, but a huge thank you to Michael Anderson with the Mississippi River Network, who just finished talking, because I know there's another Michael Anderson. He, in this whole event, this campaign, this idea, there was a lot of effort, and I think we've all really enjoyed it. So thank you so much for your hard work and putting together our amazing inaugural River City party.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. If you have a question, the Zoom floor is yours. Or a comment, go for it.
I have a comment. Actually, it's a bit of a poem. It's talking about how the fact that our bodies are 50% water. And the poem is from Natalie Diaz. And she says, "You have been made in my likeness. I am inside you. I am you, you are me. Let us say to one another, I am yours, and know finally that we will only ever be as much as we are willing to save of one another." So, yay, river citizens.
Hey, Libby, there was a question. Thank you for sharing that, first of all. And there was a question for you. Laura, do you want to just go ahead and share it?
Yeah, Libby, what kind of glass, if people were to find glass for you, and I found a really awesome thrift shop here in Wapello, that's probably a warehouse full of glass, what would you love to have? What could we bring you? Oh, you're muted, Libby.
Okay, I unmuted. I'm looking for big things because the scale of these, well, you might look at the picture and think, oh, that's 12, 15 inches high. Some of them are 74 inches high. So big vases, big lamp hearts. And then on the other end of the spectrum, most of them have a little finial, the size of a cordial glass or something like that. The other caveat is it makes things much easier if they have a level top. So a pitcher is really hard for me to use.
Oh, okay, I need to be taking notes. Thanks, Libby, that's awesome. And who is the poet that you mentioned?
The poet is Natalie Diaz, and the book is Post-Colonial Love Poems. She has several wonderful poems about water and air and love.
So, on Zoom, you have to like wait 10 seconds just to see if there's a, hold a pause because everyone's going to speak over each other. Final call. If you have a comment, if you have a question, please share it now. Uncle John, the floor is yours. Take us home.
Oh, the sky is a river, and the river a sky. Oh, don't ask me why, let it flow on by. Let it flow on by. Let it flow on by. Don't ask me why, let it flow on by. Oh, the train is a river, and the river's a train. Don't ask me why, let it rain, let it rain. Let it rain, let it rain. Let it rain, let it rain. Don't make me explain, let it rain, let it rain. Oh, the stars are a river, and the river's a galaxy. Don't try to see, let it be, let it be. Let it be, let it be. Let it be, let it be. Don't try to see, let it be, let it be. Oh, the mayfly's a river, and the river's a mayfly. But don't let her die, let her fly, let her fly. Let her fly, let her fly. Let her fly, let her fly. But don't let her die, let her fly, let her fly. Oh, the boy is a river, and the river's a boy. He swims in the water, it's a joy, it's a joy. It's a joy, it's a joy. It's a joy, it's a joy. He swims in the water, it's a joy, it's a joy. Oh, the girl is a river, and the river's a girl. She lets down her hair, it curls and uncurls. It curls and uncurls. It curls and uncurls. Oh, she lets down her hair, it uncurls and uncurls. Oh, time is a river, and the river is time. Don't make it be mine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine. In a journey sublime, let it shine, let it shine. That was good.
That was a good one, man. Every time. All right.
Woohoo!
Well, I'm just crying river tears over here, right? Every drop, I'm in the watershed. It's going right to the river.
Right on, brother. Right on.
Oh, well, friends, thank you all for joining tonight. I'll hang out here for, I don't know, however long is needed, answer any, further questions or comments. And then be on the lookout. I'll send an email that has links, to stay involved, about the postcards, about, how to support our presenters here and all of that. So may the river be with you.
May the river be with you.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Michael. Bye.
That's very right there.
Really?
Yeah, because it should be real long. Now you like downsize and it makes it really tight. That's tight. That's your best version right there. Like you cut a few verses out. I think.
I did.
I think that's
No reason repeating the same thing.
that's awesome.
This is my favorite part of the night, just hearing you two talk.
That's backstage after the band plays.
That's right.
Hey, Kelly, thanks again for everything, girl.
Oh, I didn't do anything. Thank you.
And you're a great leader.
Kelly's glowing.
That's right.
This was a great time. So happy. Wish I could hug you guys.
Yeah.
In due time.
Mark River, you were the last person I hugged that wasn't my husband.
Oh my goodness. You tell him about everything?
Oh, he knows about you.
Yeah, I remember the last our meeting we had. That was crazy, right at the beginning of the pandemic. Yeah.
I have like such a distinct memory of being in my hotel bathroom when the World Health Organization was like, and now we're calling this a pandemic, and then met you guys in the lobby and we're like, let's go out to dinner and I'll fly home tomorrow.
Yeah.
Lifetime ago.
Yeah, that's a lifetime ago. It was cool.
Yeah, couple lifetimes.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we're getting ready to go on a 7-day trip. So
yeah.
It's like midnight to me right now.
Yeah.
That is so awesome. I hope you guys have a wonderful trip.
Oh yeah, it's going to be wonderful. The last trip of the year is always the best one. So we get to see it all. Good job, Michael.
Yeah.
Guys. I appreciate you.
I think Joel's muted because he's still paddling.
Dude, Joel's going all night. He's definitely in on the behind the scenes post-event party. He's like, yeah, I'm good. Let's do this.
I like the dedication.
Yeah, it's like seeing a freight train on that.
I was too lazy to turn off the Zoom. I thought you'd kick me out.
Oh man,
no, that's inspiration.
You got to get it in whenever you can.
You look like a steamboat.
I'm an hour ahead here, so it's almost bedtime.
Well, you can see you're going to be kicking some waves.
That's
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Great job.
All right.
Nice to see
Thank you.
Hey, Joel, are you gonna put like weights on your paddles so like water resistance is like part of the training?
This is hooked up to a flywheel, so it does have resistance on it.
Of course. That's awesome. Amazing. That was fun. Bye, everybody.
All right. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you so much
Take
for
care.
coming. Well, Michael, I didn't want to just leave you on your own, but
Thanks, Kelly.
sure, with Virginia, Colette, and Hank, you can handle this.
I wonder, I have a feeling Colette like joined with the phone. It was like, hey, yeah, Michael, I did it. I'm going to set this. So All right.
Really awesome job. Obviously, like start a little later, you know, however you need to do your schedule, you know, we're good.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Kelly. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you so much for this. This was really awesome.
Oh, I just love like everyone's doing the Zoom thing.
I know. This is really good. Oh wait, I'm gonna just say something. My sister just texted me and said she's like, that was really awesome. And then she said, I logged on just in time to see you out me as the crazy postcard lady.
So awesome.
So anyway, all right. Thank you. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Sounds good. See you, Kelly. All right, this is last call. Anyone that's still on the Zoom, if you have a question or comment, I'm still here. Otherwise, I'm shutting it down. All right.